think I still know how to do this. Okay, I got this. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. It has been a long time since my last video. It's been a little over a year, I think like a year and a couple weeks. I wanted to make this video to give you guys an update on what has been going on this past year. What are the things that we've been dealing with, as well as talk about why I haven't been making videos, why I just kind of stopped. This video will probably be a little bit on the longer side. I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. I just felt the need to make this video and to update you guys on everything that's been going on. I know I touched on this story a little bit in my previous videos, just, you know, as they were kind of happening, but instead of linking them and asking you to go find them and check them out, I'm just gonna retell the story from the beginning, so that way the whole story is right here in this video and it's all together. So I'm gonna start from the very, very beginning. I will try my hardest to keep everything super concise as much as I possibly can, but I really felt the need to update you guys and to let you guys know just what's been going on. The end of January last year, we got a phone call in the middle of the night that Kelly's mom fell in her home, and she fractured her orbital bone on the left side and her C3. When we got to the hospital, it looked pretty bad, and unfortunately she couldn't move her arms or her legs, and I don't believe she really had a whole lot of feeling in her arms or her legs. So immediately we were all very, very scared as to like what's gonna happen, you know, like is she paralyzed, like what's the deal? The doctors just kind of said, you know, unfortunately with spinal cords you just never know, so we need to wait till the swelling goes down to kind of see what happens. Luckily she didn't need surgery like on her face, because it was just a fracture and it would heal on its own, but her C3, there was a lot of compression on her spine, so once some of the swelling went down they had to go in and do surgery. To give you guys a little bit of background on her mom and kind of her history with her back, she's had several back surgeries. She's had lower back surgery and upper back surgery. She even had a cage put around her C4 and 5 because there was a lot of compression and they had to go in and make space. And that was what was happening at her C3, so they had to kind of go in and make a little bit of space. Once some of the swelling went down and she was able to kind of start recovering from her surgery, she was able to kind of move her right arm, but she couldn't feed herself. She couldn't really raise it. She could kind of raise it, but not make a fist or anything. And her left arm, she would try to move her shoulder to move her arm, but it was just like dead weight. And her legs, couldn't really move them, could kind of move them. But that's kind of where we were. So she ended up spending about a month in the hospital, and it was just a waiting game, to be perfectly honest, because as far advanced as science is, there's so many things about the spinal cord that science just doesn't know yet. You know, one person could have an accident and this be the outcome, and then another person could have had the same type of accident and have a totally different outcome. So it was all the waiting game. She spent about a month in the hospital and ended up being discharged to a rehab facility that specialized in spinal cord injuries. So the doctors and the nurses and the physical therapist had expertise in spinal cord rehabilitation. And then the coolest part was that everyone on her floor had spinal cord injuries. So she was able to have a network of people around her that were going through the same things that she was going through. And she started physical therapy. It was pretty intensive. It was like 3 hours a day, I think like 5 possibly 6 days a week. And when she got there, she couldn't walk, she couldn't sit up on her own, she couldn't feed herself. She actually was having a lot of challenge swallowing because of the surgery that she had. But with lots and lots of intensive therapy over the course of a couple of months, she progressed to the point where she was able to transfer using a walker from her bed to an electric wheelchair, and then from her electric wheelchair to the toilet. And then she was actually able to get to a point too where she could take a few steps with her walker. So coming from the initial part of the accident where we thought she was paralyzed completely to her being able to at least do that was a huge deal. She also got mobility in her right hand to where she could feed herself. And I remember that day when we walked into the room, she was sitting in her chair, and I think she had just like finished dinner, and she had said like she was able to feed herself. And so that was like such a cool thing to be able to, you know, to accomplish and to do. From, I think she was there at the facility from like end of February, early March until June. And then in June, she was released to be able to go home. Granted, most of the time she was still in an electric wheelchair, but she was able to, with the help of a walker, she was able to transfer from a car to her chair, from her chair to, you know, her bed and stuff like that. There was some modifications that we had to make to her home, but for the most part, things were okay. We were all getting in that mentality of, this is our new normal, this is what our life is going to be like, let's figure out how to adapt to that, and let's figure out how to do the best that we can. And we got into a rhythm, you know, we got to where we could take her to go get her hair cut, or take her to the movies, or take her shopping, and it was cool. It was awesome. She did have some home physical therapy, and some people come to kind of help her with things. Going from being 100% like full body abled to be able to drive, to be able to take care of yourself, feed yourself, cook for yourself, do stuff like that, to having to be dependent on others, I think was, it's a huge mental challenge. I think it's something that's extremely difficult to grasp. I couldn't imagine what that's like. And unfortunately, she tried to do a couple of things on her own and had a couple of falls, but she was okay. Nothing was, you know, she wasn't injured or anything like that. But one day in particular, she was trying to get up from her toilet and ended up falling again. And this fall was pretty severe, and she ended up going to the hospital. The doctors checked her out, ran tests, did all kinds of things, but couldn't physically see anything wrong with her. She didn't, you know, fracture anything, she didn't break anything, or anything like that. There wasn't any swelling, but we had realized that all the progress that she had made, she suddenly had lost. She couldn't really move her legs, she was having a hard time moving her arms. It was pretty heartbreaking, because we were so excited. We had gotten into this rhythm, we had figured things out, and then here we are again. And then unfortunately, the hospital that she was at, it wasn't in the same network as the rehab that she was in, so she couldn't transfer to that rehab. So she ended up having to go to another facility. To be perfectly honest, that facility was not equipped to handle the needs that she needed. Needed a hoist to get from the bed to her chair, to get from the bed to a shower chair so she could take a shower and things like that. She needed assistance in taking a shower. She needed assistance in feeding or eating. It was a lot. It was a lot of work and a lot of care that she needed. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best place for her, just because they weren't properly trained and equipped to handle her type of injury. One of the things that we learned about spinal injuries, and it's kind of interesting because there's so many things that like you don't think about or don't realize, but one of the things, you know, with an injury like hers is that like it controls your bladder, your spinal cord, and all of that works together to really kind of control your bladder. And one of the things we realized is that her bladder was not emptying fully, and it ended up causing a problem to where she wasn't able to empty her bladder fully. So her bladder backed up, and then it backed up into her kidneys, which caused her kidneys to become really inflamed and infected. One of the things that we did learn, especially in older patients, the first sign of like a urinary tract infection or anything like that is going to be confusion. If someone is suddenly acting confused, then you need to speak up. You need to talk to the doctor, you need to talk to the nurses, you need to like really be an advocate for your loved one, because that is going to be the first sign that something is wrong, is if they're confused. And she started getting very, very confused, almost to the point of like hallucinating and being delusional, and we could not figure out what was going on. But we were very adamant about, take tests, please, take blood work, something is going on, something's not right. And come to find out that you know, her bladder was so backed up that it was backing into her kidneys were inflamed. She ended up going back to the hospital. And it was there that the doctor had a serious conversation with all of us and said, you know, hey, it might be better for her, because of her injury, her bladder's not going to empty fully. It might be better for her to get a bag. I don't know the technical term for it. We just call it a pee bag. But essentially it's a tube that goes into your lower abdomen, straight into your bladder, and then it empties out into a bag. So the decision was made to have that. And then once she was released from the hospital, the good news is we were able to choose the hospital that she went to. So we made sure it was the particular one that was in the same network as the rehab facility. So from the hospital, she was able to go back to the rehab facility. And we were so ecstatic, because we were like, okay, the first time she was there, she had intensive therapy. She went from not being able to do anything to be able to transfer. And we had this thought that it was gonna be the same way. I think she went in there maybe like October, maybe November. And after a little while, you know, the doctors kind of realized that she's only going to progress to a certain level. And unfortunately, she's not going to be able to get back to the level that she was. They just kind of realized that somehow something happened that in that other fall that just caused all this havoc. And they realized like she wasn't going to get back to the same level. And we were dealing with Medicare, and it's super confusing and I don't want to go into all of it, but like Medicare has like certain days allotted for like rehab and therapy and stuff like that. You have to like pay attention to how many days you have and all of that mess. She got discharged from there. She went to another place, and the place that she went to for her was probably the best place that she's been to mentally. It was the best place for her mentally. They had activities. She met some people there that, you know, had friends. Her room, she had like this huge room on the corner that overlooked the lake. It was just a really good place for her mentally, because that's when she was like, realized like, okay, this is my situation. Let me make the best of it. Let me go do activities. Let me go paint or crafts or whatever activity they had for the day. So it was really a good place for her mentally, but unfortunately, I don't feel like it was the best place for her physically, because again, she requires a lot of attention, a lot of help and assistance, and the physical therapist wasn't necessarily equipped to help in the rehabilitation. And they felt like she needed a little bit more rehab than what they could offer. So from there, she transferred to another facility that had a little bit more therapy. And so she transferred there, and it was not bad actually. And I want to say with there, we were in that place around Christmas time. So she had fallen in January and went to the hospital, went to rehab, went home, went to the hospital, went to a place, went to the hospital, went to rehab, went to a place, went to another place. And then from there, she had, I'm trying to think, I can't remember why we ended up transferring. I don't know if it was like the days, or there was something that had to do with like Medicaid or something that we had to transfer to a different type of facilities. There's different levels of facilities. There's like acute care, skilled nursing. There's just different levels. So she ended up having to transfer to another place, and that is where she currently is now. The place that she's currently in, actually, we feel like we've gotten into a rhythm with them. We've gotten to a decent place with them, is okay. So during all of this, Kelly and I both, we would go to work in the morning, we would come home, kind of get ourselves situated, let the dog out, do what we need to do, and immediately go see her. And we were doing that pretty much every day. Like if she was in the hospital, like the first time she was in the hospital, there's a couple days that we slept there. You know, rehab facilities, we would go there pretty much every day after work. We were there on the weekends all the time. Even when she went home, we would go visit her. And one of the places that she was at was actually like 45 minutes from our house. So we would get off work at like 5, 6 o'clock and then get on the road, drive 45 minutes to go see her, be there for a couple of hours, and drive 45 minutes home. Honestly, it was very taxing. It was emotionally draining. It was physically draining. We would be eating all the time, eating out all the time, eating late. Going to the gym was pretty non-existent. I still went to the gym. I was still able to compete in the open, so I still was able to go to the gym, but as the year progressed, it kind of dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. So that's what we've been dealing with for the past year. So currently, the place that she's been in, I think, since January. We're at a point now where we're just trying to figure out what our next steps are. Ideally, her next steps would be to go home, but there's a lot with that. She still can't get out of bed on her own, so she needs a hoist to be able to get from the bed to her chair. She needs a lot of assistance and a lot of care and, you know, people around. So we're trying to figure out at this point, and going home, like you have to get things situated, like a hospital bed, a hoist. She's dealing with kind of like an electric wheelchair situation. So we're trying to figure all that out. Plus, on top of everything, she's now approved for Medicaid. They require a doctor's plan of care. So we're waiting on that to get the official plan of care, because honestly that will determine if they're even going to allow her to go home. So we're kind of in this odd limbo phase right now, but we have a rhythm, we have a routine. We go see her about every other day, or, you know, maybe like 3 to 4 times a week. So I feel like personally we have a little bit more balance than what we did. On top of all of that was going on, there's a lot of other like super exciting life events. I was able to go to the Arnold. I competed in the CrossFit Open. I went on this really cool retreat. I got a new tattoo. I published a book. There's like all this really, really cool stuff that happened, and I'll make more videos about that later, just so that way I can update you guys on all of that stuff. But I really just wanted to tell you guys the story of Kelly's mom and what has been going on with that, and also talk about why I haven't made any videos. One of the things that I realized probably back in December was that making videos for me was or is kind of therapeutic. I didn't really realize it until I had, you know, not made videos for 6 months or however long that was, that for me it's kind of therapeutic. It's not about how many people are subscribed or how many people watch it or any of that. It was more about me being able to have an outlet for what is going on in my life, the good and the bad, me being able to put it out there. And I just kind of stopped. And I think part of the reason why I stopped is because I was trying to, in the very beginning, it was I didn't want to share this part of my life. I didn't want to put that out there, because I do feel like there are times that you need to maintain that privacy and maintain all of that. But I also feel like, for me, I just had to process everything. It was like the entire 2018 was like a tornado of emotions and mental stuff and just, you know, all of that. I think I just needed time to process everything and needed time to just kind of like take a step back, breathe, figure everything out. And then once I got to a place where I felt like I was okay to kind of talk about it, then I would. So I've been meaning to make this video for a little while, but that is what's been going on. I feel like now we're in a decent place. It's still kind of hard for her mom to accept the reality of what is going on. Like I said, she can feed herself, but her left hand is just really not, she can't really grip very well, and she definitely can't walk. It is what it is. I think for me, like, my whole thing is, as long as she's mentally happy, then I think that's like the biggest thing. So we definitely try to stay positive and keep a positive attitude about things just because like I feel like it's super important. But yeah, that is what's going on. This video is actually way longer than I thought. Yes, I'm also growing out my hair. I don't know why, I kind of just decided that I wanted to grow it out. Hopefully I'll be making more videos. I really want to make a video about my tattoo. I want to make a video about the book I published, and just make more videos, because for me, it definitely is a huge outlet, and it's a huge, it's just therapeutic for me in a way. If you guys stuck around for this, I truly, truly appreciate it. I really wanted just to give anybody who watches an update on what's going on. If you have any questions, let me know. It's a lot. You know, they say for babies, like they don't come with instruction manuals, but I don't feel like there's resources out there for aging parents and how to deal with aging parents. We were going at this blind and have learned so much about this system and Medicaid and Medicare and dealing with aging parents and all of that. And on top of everything, my dad has dementia. So we've been dealing with that as well. So yeah, there's no instruction manual for aging parents. So if anybody has any questions or just needs kind of like some support or anything, let me know, reach out.